All right. Hey, Conservatives of Texas, established 2019, Alex DeAnda here. We're going to be speaking today to another candidate that's running for mayor there in Lubbock, our neighboring city to the south. We absolutely love Lubbock, and especially what they've done with Sanctuary City for the unborn over there. Antonio, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. I'm doing great. And I do want to say, I want to lift everybody out in the Panhandle in prayer, for what those fires that are going on. I know it's touched a lot of lives, and those are our brothers and sisters out there. And I just want to continue praying for them. We plan on taking some supplies out there and helping those folks, and God bless them, and just please keep them in prayer. But that is a very serious deal. And so I thought I'd throw that out there right now. I think we should always keep them in mind in everything we do. But outside of that, working on this campaign, trying to do what we can to make Lubbock a better place for everybody. That's one of the things that was of concern to me when I decided to jump in this race.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for saying those nice things. Yeah, those fires, it is really wild, but you know what? God is so good. The very next day, he threw some snow down.
Yes, he did.
God bless. End of April, and to God goes the glory, right?
Yep. I'll tell you, God finds a way. I mean, he doesn't even really have to find a way. He knows the way, and he takes care of it. This world, obviously, anything can happen, but if you have your faith in the Lord and you trust in him to do what he needs to do, then he always comes through.
Yeah, for sure.
That definitely mitigated the damage that could have been caused, for sure.
Yeah, that's right. And so I was in Lubbock last week, and I interviewed another gentleman. He likes you a lot. We spoke about that just a few minutes ago. I like to try to do these interviews on location if I can, if I'm in the area.
Sure.
But hey, this is the next best thing. So I really appreciate your time.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get right into some of these questions real quick.
Okay? Sure.
So Antonio, I've known of you for quite some time, but some of the folks out there may not. I had the pleasure of meeting you at one of our events here locally. And so thank y'all for helping support that. And I think you guys sponsored a table. And so we really appreciate that. We really do need to get in a cohesive action together to move the grassroots movement, and anything we can do to help you guys, just let us know. And I know that you guys helped us out, so thank y'all for that. And I think I still even have y'all on the website for doing that. So
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're glad to. I'll tell you, anytime that we can help a brother or sister organization that's out there, especially when it's conservative movement. And, we look at organizations such as Project Destiny, which is obviously a big part of what you do. If we can protect the unborn in any way possible, we need to do that. And we need to stand up for them and be bold about it. They can't speak for themselves, but regardless of what people believe, being in the womb does not mean you're not a baby. They're babies, and they're God's children. And abortion is such a barbaric thing anyway, and I'm saying that regardless of what people feel about that, because it's the truth. It's one of the most barbaric ways of killing that you can imagine, and it's done to babies in the womb. And people could say they don't feel pain or not. That's just absolutely ridiculous. They do, and those are God's children, and we need to protect them rather than abort them, and let's call it what it is. It's killing them. So the fact that your organization sticks up for that, you've got a special place in my heart. We will always support you guys through LUCA, through me, myself, and my campaign. That's one of the major focuses on my campaign is protecting those innocent children, and obviously, young children as well. The way that people are trying to get into their minds through books, through these little trans activist shows, and through everything else. I mean, and we really have to work hard at making sure that we reach out and protect those children. I will say this: you'd mentioned Mark McGrayer. Mark and I've been friends for a long time. I have zero bad things to say about him, and I've known Steve for a long time too. And really, all of the all of the other candidates, I've known them, and so we all. I don't think you'll see any negative campaigning. I hope you don't, because we all know one another. More than anything else, I want to work on the issues and stuff. There are philosophical differences that we all have, and that's the reason we're all running, or or in one way or another, we believe that we are the best person that can bring those values out into the city council. And that's the purpose of running. So, you know, when you'd mentioned earlier about Mark, yeah, I've known him for a while, and
yeah,
you know,
yeah, he had nothing but good things to say about you. So I really am pleased. You know, when it comes to campaigning and racing and races, you know, we have seen some things out there that can be some mudslinging types of deals, but I really hope that we can get back to the original state of, hey, may the best men win just on the merits and their attributes and their accolades of what they're doing for the community.
Yes.
And I think that if we can get there once again, you're always going to have the best candidate, and you're also going to have the best support system for that candidate. Because I'm sure that, you know, say you're the victor, I'm sure he's going to work with you, and
absolutely,
and vice versa. So that's the way it should be.
yeah. I focus you know, everything I'm doing, and in fact, I've run campaigns for 41 years. You know, I've done it a long time, since I was 17 years old. Wow. And I've been involved in one way or another in active campaigning, helping people get elected one way or the other, whether it's knocking on doors or, you know, making phone calls, donating, you know, putting out signs, picking up signs, just whatever, you know, whatever it took. And I did whatever I needed to do. There's a lot of really good people in Lubbock that have put themselves out there and have decided to run for office. And so you'll never see me attack one, whether it's my personal opponent or whether it's, you know, which is a new thing for me, actually, and or, you know, somebody for another campaign. When I take on a campaign, I always tell them, you know, if you're going to get negative, then I'm on my way out. I'm not here for that. You know, it's hard enough on families and on individuals that are running as it is. There's no need to compliment it. I mean, to make it worse, rather complicate it with you know, just negativity. It's hard enough as it is.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a little interested, and this wasn't one of my questions, but you said you've been involved since you were, you know, 17, 18 years old. What was it that struck your attention as to, you know, because when you're young like that, it's kind of rare. And when I see those jewels out there, I first of all, I appreciate the youth that are involved, but I really am curious to finding out, what was it for you that really piqued your interest politically?
Well, you know, I was actually in high school and I was taking some political science classes, and Reagan actually came up and spoke at the university, and I got to go see him speak. And I really, really enjoyed that speech. And I was a huge fan. And that's why, you know, I jumped into the Republican Party right away. But, you know, going forward after that, I actually met a few people who were actually Democrats at the time, Pete Laney and John Montford, you know, who, and back then, you know, everybody kind of worked together. You know, if it was one of those things where there wasn't that big of a disparity between the Republican and the Democrat Party. So you always saw them working together one way or another. And they worked to get me more involved because they saw something that they felt was going to be good for Lubbock. Not because they were trying to bring me into the Democrat Party, because they knew I was already sold as a Republican. And they actually even facilitated my ability to go see Reagan, which was really nice. So I was able to be in the White House under all four Republican presidents since Reagan. You know, Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George Bush, and of course Trump. You know, several times under Trump. So, I've been very blessed in that way.
Well, good, man. That's very neat to know. And I tell you, man, what a champion conservative we have just right down south, and a lot of you guys. So that's wonderful. So first question here. The reason I was in Lubbock was for some personal things. And I asked somebody, and not like personal like that, but we have an athlete in the family, and so we had to go take care of some stuff there. And I asked the individual, what are some things that are happening here that have piqued your interest? And one thing that he brought up was this ERCOT situation. And, you know, we've heard of the ERCOT, I'm going to call it a debacle down south, with the house freeze storm. And I'll read this quote to you real quick. It's not from him, it's from an article that I looked up just to kind of get some premise of it. some more information, and it reads as follows, and then we can just talk about it. It says city leaders in 2015 sought to join the ERCOT grid when their contract with Xcel Energy expired, with one big benefit. The move would eliminate the need to build a $700 million power plant to stay with SPP. Then in 2018, the city council agreed to have the city join the state's open marketplace. And that was an article that was set February 14th of 2024. Tell us a little bit about that, because I did not know that even happened, and that's really close. So what's your opinion and where do you stand on that?
Well, and I can tell you, and a lot of that's just steering away from the whole country, and really it's more of a liberal movement that's steering away from the coal producing, oil producing, gas producing energy. I don't
global warming, all the
all that other nonsense. I don't believe we would have needed to do that. I believe that council thought we needed to do that, and in order to do the things that they wanted to do to take our energy forward, we would have needed to make that transition. I do know that there were some changes that needed to be made that could have probably been made the same way. However, one of the things that I honestly am concerned about is this move. Although it moves it into retail, the government's still going to take their nickel out of it, right? And I call it a nickel. It's way more than that, because they're going to have their fees and everything else. So really all they're doing is taking the same energy, selling it, to the retail places and letting them, at a bulk rate. And then they're selling it back to us. And right now it looks like, oh, this is wonderful. It's going to be cheaper. But by the time you get to gear 2 or 3, it's going to be markedly more expensive. And we could have avoided that. I honestly think there were other methods that we could have used. I think we should have stayed down the path that we were going. But to commercialize that at the time that they did, for the reasons that they said, I'm not buying that. But I do know that the city council believed the way that they did during that time. They did what they felt they needed to do. And I would have gone down a different path. There would have been a lot more to explore before I put the taxpayers during this economy into this situation. But that's me. That's something I'm looking at as the city is still going to have a hand in all of the back end of it. You can't change that. You're not going to find, as far as, and our company works with a contractor that puts up power lines and everything. And so nobody's going to do it better than LP&L does right now, or the contractors that they bring in. And we're one of them, obviously. And I understand the infrastructure position of that. But as far as the marketing of it and everything, the way that it was handled, I don't buy it. And I don't blame, I really think it was more at the mayoral level than it was anywhere else during that time. And I think the mayor at that time was Dan Pope, and it was something that he felt he needed to go forward with. But I don't necessarily agree that was the direction we should have gone at that time. I think there was some more research we should have done, and I think there were better ways to do that. And I was shocked when we did it.
Well, Antonia, why is it that the general public doesn't get that, if it sounds good, it looks good, to do their due diligence when it comes to, and maybe that's a bad position when I say general public. Why is it that these elected officials sometimes don't see that if it smells too good, it tastes too good, it might have a lot of sugar in it, it's probably bad for the body? What are they missing? What is it that they're missing? Is it just they want to attach their name to a legacy thing? I don't understand it. What have you found?
A lot of it, you have to look at who's supporting your campaign and who are you in bed with. And I'm just going to be honest. That's where a lot of it comes from. What are their big donors want? They get private meetings with these people.
Wow.
My campaign, if you look on my sign, it has the LUCA symbol, which is, it's a Holy Trinity covering the United States, which means it's a combination of our faith meeting our Constitution, making sure that we do what's right for all. So when somebody asked me once, they said, well, who are your endorsements? Who's this and this? And I know everybody, and I tell people I'm not looking right now. If somebody wants to come and endorse me, that's great. And I've had some that have offered, and that's fine. But I told them, I'm being endorsed by God because he's the one that led me to run. And so that's my faith is what's leading me to run. And that's all I need. I feel like, with what I'm seeing going on in this city and what I'm seeing needs to happen, and understanding that, we have a high crime rate, for instance, but yet, we have some of the lowest paid police officers out there, and things that have been promised to them they can't have right now. You have the first responders that they're saying, we're going to lock you at this rate here, and that's all you're getting. And we have people in Abilene and Midland and some places surrounding us that make so much more that after our guys get trained, they go over there. So now our police and our law enforcement our law enforcement and our first responders are underpaid and unhappy. And it's not that they're unhappy with their job. They're just unhappy with their situation.
Sure.
And that it's, the cost to be able to support your family has risen drastically. We are tasking these people to protect our families and also to, stand in harm's way. For instance, what if something like this happened that happened in the Panhandle? It could happen anywhere. Yeah. And what if it happened in Lubbock? We have our firefighters. We're expecting them to do all this and not wanting to pay them properly. So it's not that they're even going to Dallas, Fort Worth. I mean, they can go to Midland, they can go to Abilene, they can go to any other place and get paid way more than they're making here. And I know that that's an issue even with the sheriff's department. So those are things, and that doesn't involve the city council, but I'm just letting you know, what is it that's driving those prices lower, but all of these other things are being priced higher? Well, one of it is, we've had several infrastructure projects that have come up that have been shot down in council. Well, those are tax dollars. Those are also revenue generating avenues. Like one of them was a huge, it would have been student housing that could have helped increase Texas Tech population by about 10,000 because we need more housing. We don't have it. Yeah. So that would have helped the university, which in turn would have helped the economy out here to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah. And it would have brought tens of millions of dollars of revenue in. So that way it takes some of the weight off of the taxpayers and shifted it across, spread it out, right? Yeah. But instead of doing that, it got shot down, for whatever reasons. And everybody has their own reason for it. But again, that's not something I would shoot down. And I know people, again, it's not a popular thing because there are people that wanted it shot down. Some of them were, very wealthy individuals or very, prominent individuals, and that's fine. But what is in the best interest of we the people? Because see, with me, I grew up very poor, and I know what it's like to struggle. I knew what it was like for my parents to struggle to keep the lights on or food on the table. And I remember those days. And now that, life has taken a turn for me and I'm doing, obviously pretty well, I'm able to help my family in ways that, we don't have to worry about those things from my personal family, but also I'm able to help, some of my cousins or my sisters and their family, whatever, when things get tough. But we didn't have somebody like that. Most of these families don't. And so we have to look at what is the best way to help an economy. One of them is create jobs. Well, these things would have created jobs. And another way is, we have to have a safer environment. Yeah, where people aren't afraid to go out and do things and enjoy themselves, and then they're spending more money out, spending more time outside, and less money on different things that they would have to be doing on the inside. So I just think that more than anything, we have to start looking at we the people rather than the city as a government, because when you're elected, we're not elected as leaders, we're elected as servants. We are civic servants. We are, the mayor is a servant of the city. You're elected to serve the city and what is the best interest of the city. We recently had and I'm sorry, I know I'm just rambling on, but
no, you're fine.
We had a issue where the city decided, they all voted on the alleyways, making the sewer lines that go into the main sewer line, where it used to be, and it should be the responsibility of the city. They voted to make that the responsibility of the citizens without telling anybody. Okay, they did that. So each time that something happens, it's, one of these pipes break. $4,500, $3,500, up to about $12,000, depending on where it is.
Yeah.
Now, where does the damage in that alley come from? Okay, you've got I know our trucks are super heavy. Then you have the garbage trucks. You have all of these, other, utility trucks, whether it be for gas or water or whatever, going through there, impacting, the pipes in the alley. So it's not that the citizens cause that to happen. Plus, that's also, if you think about it, that is public area. That's why they go up and down there. That's not our property; it's theirs. And so once it hits there, they're acting like they're responsible by doing all these things in the alley. So why is it our responsibility to pay for that? Well, recently, one of the councilmen said, "Oh yeah, me and another councilwoman said we saw this and all of the people upset, so we're going to change our mind on it." After he originally said he wouldn't. But I'm like, well, why did you do it in the first place?
Yeah, exactly.
And did you only do it because people were mad and you're in a race?
Yeah.
I mean, that part bothers me. And I'm not going to name names. But it just bothers me that is an issue because it shouldn't have been an issue. They created the issue and then they go out and laud themselves because, look, I fixed this bad issue that I created. And he's not saying he created it because he did. He's one of the ones that did. And but it's still, to me, I just don't want to be that guy, and I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah,
if it's the right thing to do, I'm going to do it, and if it's not, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to stand behind my vote. That's what you're supposed to do, and you're going to do what's right for the citizens of Lubbock, not for a special interest group or your largest donor, but for the citizens of Lubbock. And so that's my position on that.
Well, good. Well, tell us a little bit about this marijuana ordinance that's out there right now.
Yeah, it is, and I'll tell you, marijuana.
It is literally out there.
It's way out there, and I'll tell you, here's the thing about that, and it's got a ton of signatures, and it doesn't matter if you have 100,000 signatures on it.
Yeah,
you can't pass it. It's illegal in the state.
Yeah.
So you can't just say, oh, it's automatically legal in Lubbock. But it doesn't need to be one. I think it's a big bait and switch because the candidate knew you couldn't legalize it, but he needed to go out and this was somebody that he decided, I have this other agenda, but nobody will go for that. But they love marijuana. Let's go get people signed up. And it pushed this guy up to the very top of the ballot. That's one of the reasons people started recruiting me to come in and run because they knew I would be able. They ran numbers for everybody, and they knew I would be able to remove him from the runoff, or they hoped I would. And so, but on something like that, that's a bait and switch. It's just like he's got another thing going where it's this clean air. Obviously, he's saying that it is this big study that he's getting $500,000 for, and he says it's going to whoever, but. He's convincing everybody in East Lubbock and North Lubbock, whatever, that the air is bad there, and that Lubbock's giving them bad air, and West Lubbock and South Lubbock good air. Well, we don't have a tannery, we don't have all of these factories or anything that's out there. None of them that are producing all of this bad, quote unquote, bad air. Now, this is a 3-year study, right? So whether he wins or loses, I mean, you're convincing all these people that, oh, look at all these things that we're going to fight, and I'm trying to get your air clean. It's going to take 3 years to find out. In 3 years, they're going to say, well, dude, air's the same, because there isn't anything bad there. But he's convincing people that there isn't, just much the same way. He's got this woke agenda where, I know this guy's, with the LGBTQ people, and he likes all of these others, once open borders, all that kind of stuff. We don't need that in Lubbock. Right. But so it's a bait and switch is what I tell people, lure them in thinking that we're going to legalize marijuana and I'm the only one to do it. And then push them away saying, oh, sorry, the state couldn't, but I'm your mayor now. And by the way, here's all these things we don't want. Yeah. And you think about all these things that happen that, because of woke mayors throughout the country, last election cycle. And this is a cycle that includes Donald Trump. Now, this mayor, the one that is elected now, is going to be the one that can, do you want a mayor that's going to tell the police department to stand down when all this crazy stuff's happening? Or do you want a mayor that's going to say, you know what, make an example of those idiots that are coming on there, laying on the streets or spitting at you guys or cussing at you? Because there's a difference between a peaceful protest, which if you look at, that's what's constitutionally, and then there's always civil disorder. all the way down to rioting. And we're not going to allow that in Lubbock if I'm mayor. But again, there are some people that it may not bother as much. But I want to make sure that never happens. So, that's one of the things that I bring to the table, that I know I'm not going to back down from anybody. I just don't do that.
Yeah, well, good. Well, what's interesting about this gentleman is he's speaking about clean air, but at the same time, he's talking about putting marijuana smoke into the air.
A little oxymoron.
A little paradox there, isn't it?
Yep.
So I don't know if you've been to Denver lately, but
it's interesting. And if you think about, and here's the reason. One, I'm against that anyway, just because one, it's illegal. Okay. It's illegal everywhere else. There's reasons for it. Two, it's a gateway drug. And there's a lot of kids, they say, well, it's only going to be sold to adults. All right, fine. But it's going to bring more access to these kids, where people that can get it to them are going to have it. And there's a lot of really unscrupulous people that are willing to basically capitalize on that. And then you have people lacing that stuff with fentanyl and stuff, which is very dangerous. And it's a very serious drug. And right now we have a very, very high crime rate in Lubbock, and the distribution of that is only going to add to it. But, in Lubbock, we have a violent crime rate, that is, rivals anybody else's in the nation per capita. And we have a shortage of police officers for other reasons. So why are we going to bring something that's going to complicate their job? Because now you have minors that can be in possession and all kinds of, it's going to be more prevalent. They have a full plate already, and we need to get them more money, and two, we need to get them more help, and we need to make sure that they have the right vehicles. I know for a while they were driving vehicles that were like, it had over 200,000 miles and stuff. It was crazy because there was no money in the budget for them, but yet there's money in the budget for all these other projects. And I'm thinking, let's take care of our public safety and our first responders first, because those are actual people that are protecting the area. That's what Lubbock needs. And then let's start looking at all these other things that we need to do.
Hey, you know what? I tell you, Antonio, when I go travel somewhere with my family, I look at the crime rate. Is it a safe city? And if the crime rate is through the roof, we're not going there.
Yeah.
So you're hitting on some key points about taking care of public safety, because I think that if you can lower the crime rate naturally, organically, the people are going to want to come and spend time in Lubbock, Texas. And
absolutely.
Sales tax and things like that to really increase the revenue stream.
And that's what it's all about is making it safe for people who visit here. I mean, think about all the students that are at Tech. They don't deserve to come to school here and then have their vehicle broken into, or be assaulted or raped, or in some instances, worse. I mean, it's really bad that we have this going on in a city like Lubbock. That's, we're in the Bible Belt. There's churches everywhere out here, and we know that we're a faith-led city. So why are we allowing some of these things? And we're also a very conservative city, as is Amarillo, very conservative. And so, I mean, you guys have Ronnie Jackson, we have Jody Arrington. We're blessed. So what we have here is the perfect opportunity to be the example for everywhere else. But it has to start at the school level, and then at the city level, and then at the county level, and going forward. And our government needs to remember that we are a conservative community. You guys have that in Amarillo, and we need to have that in Lubbock. So the decisions we make should be first and foremost to preserve those principles. And if we're preserving those principles, then you have the police force that is being properly paid. They're being treated with the respect they deserve. They're given the tools they need to protect our lives, because that's what we need. We have the first responders that know that we have their back, and that we appreciate what they're doing, because they're saving our lives at the end of the day. You have an accident that happens. You have the firefighters out there. You have a medical emergency. There's firefighters. There's a fire. There's firefighters. Anything that goes on, you have those guys there, and then you have the police force there as well that are going to protect you. We went through a period where there was 30,000 or so. I can't remember that number exactly, of the 911 calls that went unanswered. And that's insane. And that was the result of poor leadership in the police department. And unfortunately, the people underneath got a lot of blame. The law enforcement, and they're not the ones that did it. If they're not getting the calls, they can't do anything. but you have a lax management at the top of it. And fortunately, that that chief is gone now, and I know that they're in the we have an interim right now, and I know, and he's apparently doing pretty well, very well, and we have the opportunity to bring in a police chief that is going to be able to change all of that. But these guys that are out on the streets, man, God love them. We need more people like them, and I hope we can start growing that force, because if you look at the crisis at the border, and thank goodness that we're fighting that off right now, our governor has empowered us to do that. We and several states, by the way, are jumping in, so that tells you how that is. But we still have a lot of people that are unvetted, unchecked, that have come through, and people think, well, they're all from Mexico. No, they're not. They're from 180, some other countries, and we're being invaded. So, we are, especially now at a time where we need our first responders and we need our law enforcement for sure to protect our citizens. And then at some point, we're going to have to protect ourselves if something doesn't change. But you need to have somebody in the office that is willing to back them 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
And without wavering. And of course, I know I am for a fact, and that's what I bring to the table on that.
Well, thank you. Tell us a little bit about these two organizations that you're a part of. You got LUCA, and then Hispanic 100. And for the folks that don't know what the letters are in LUCA, if you want to let them know.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I'm the founder and CEO of LUCA, Latinos United for Conservative Action. And what was happening is the liberal faction has been weaponizing all of our races against each other, right? Mm-hmm. And the Latino has been the one that's fastest growing. In fact, we're it's soon to be the majority out here. Mm-hmm. And what we wanted to show was that we're not all liberal. In fact, we're conservative. The way that we were raised and the values that we have is it's a conservative value. We're faith and family valued people. We love our communities. We respect law enforcement. We respect the Constitution. We love the Lord. We want to serve our communities, and we're hard workers. So when but we didn't, we felt like the only reason why we put the name Latino on it, because we're all Americans, we all are the same, right? Mm-hmm. Is because we don't like the identity politics, but because it's being used against us, we said, all right, we're Latinos, but we're united. So by that united part, that means that we're joining in with all the other races, okay? Because we're not against them. We're bringing everybody back together, right? Mm-hmm. But we're bringing them back together for conservative action, and we're not. So the conservative part means that we're looking at a faith, what your faith is, combined with what the Constitution is, and mm-hmm. it's showing us that these are the best things that are in the best interest of the community around us. And then the action is we are an action group. We are very, very active. So obviously you see, like, whenever we see organizations such as yours, we make it a point to go out there to support you and do what we need to do. We have gone to schools, out in, especially in the Fort Worth area, and we actually we removed books. We actually gathered a ton of parents because there were pornographic books mm-hmm. in those libraries. And I'm talking for elementary on up in the entire district. And so we went and protested it. That we spotlighted 3 books. They removed them. And then in order to prevent us from having to keep going up there, they shut down the library for 10 days. They removed all of the titles that had pornographic or explicit mm-hmm. material that the children shouldn't be exposed to. And then they reopened them. And then the LGBTQ faction came in and started protesting it again. And they called another meeting to see if they could get those books back in. And we went back again and we beat them again. You had at Six Flags, there were those trans shows. I mean, they were outside dancing mm-hmm. around, parading around like a strip club, but in front of children. And I know these are men, but they're in drag, and children don't need to be exposed to this. Yeah. And so we started a letter, this is a private organization, so we can't really force them to do anything, but we started a letter writing campaign, and man, we just hammered them, and finally they're like, okay, just stop. And we said, just move it indoors. We don't care if you have it, just move it indoors. Keep it away from the children. Because we were getting the media involved, everybody else, so they're like, okay, just leave us alone. Yeah. And so they took it inside, and guess what? It shut down because nobody went in to see it. Mm-hmm. So now not only were the children not exposed to it, but now they saw the real value of what that show brought to their park was zero.
Yeah.
People don't want to see that stuff. And so, there was also some organization that was trying to bring in money, through the one of the county commissioners courts to bring in, they were trying to get 400, it's Girls Inc. And they were trying to bring in 400,000 to spread out curriculum to children on the LGBTQ movement on how to transition. Right. So we went and we testified against that, and we got it beat. Again, tons of parents.
Amazing work.
Yeah, we rally people around. So we get into the grassroots of everything, and I'm really proud of this organization. Melinda Rivera is absolutely amazing. I mean, to have one of her is just incredible. But now she's got her daughter involved in it, and it's Mariah, and really all of her daughters are involved. But she has built this organization, and she's found different people similar to her all across the country. And so we have spread like wildfire. And I'm getting calls from my congressional friends out in DC saying, man, LUCA is killing it. What's going on? Well, I tell people Melinda's my secret weapon, but she's not secret anymore, man. Everybody knows her. She's fantastic. So I'm really, really proud of her and the relationship we have. She's my sister in the Lord, and one of the hardest working individuals you ever meet. Loves the Lord, loves the work, and believes in community. So LUCA is basically her and I. It was a dream that I had, and I started it as Poder Latino to try to bring a organization that will get into the grassroots and educate and involve the people in the community, so that way when something's going on that maybe you're not aware of, that we're able to reach people that otherwise we wouldn't be able to. So I'm very pleased with what LUCA's doing, and we're growing and growing and growing. And then the next deal that the Hispanic 100, that's out of California, and it's a huge it's a national organization, obviously, but we have to be on the board of that was amazing. But it's a scholarship and mentorship program. So we take students that are, entering into college age and really don't have the money to continue going to college or the training or a direction sometimes. And they apply to become mentees and also scholarship recipients. And so what we do is we take these individuals and then we pair them up. Like if they want to be an attorney, we get them with a law firm. If they want to be an accountant, we get them with a CPA firm. And we have people from every profession. I mean, we have Southwest as a strategic partner. We have Southwest Airlines. I mean, several banks, and really some of the top individuals in the country are a part of that. That's Mario Rodriguez, and that's his child. Basically, I say his child. There's a group that did that, but it's the power of his name and the relationships that he made. And he and I became really close friends and pretty much brothers throughout this process. And even though I was in Texas, I wanted to help them because I saw the good that it was doing. And as we went out there, you have you think about every Latino movie stars out there, and they participate one way or another. Several professional teams, several organizations to help these kids, and so it helps not only get them through college, but with the mentoring that they're receiving in these professional fields, they take off like rockets into life. And then now, because of their successes, the people that they knew, they start coming out and wanting to be a part of this organization. And it's just grown and grown and grown. And I'm really proud of that organization and the good work that we do. So I'm an action guy. I love to see work in progress and something happening with your efforts, and I'm not afraid to throw money at it. I'm not afraid to throw my energy and efforts at it and to bring people in. And we're going to do similar things like that here in West Texas as well. And I know Ronnie Jackson and I have had some conversation. Ronnie Jackson has gone out to a few of those meetings and just or like the galas and several meetings that we've had out there. And he's just an incredible man. I love him to death. Y'all got a rock star and out in that part of Texas, but he's been very, very involved in it. And so is Jason Smith, who is another friend of mine, but he's a chairman of Ways and Means, and he's taken a special interest to it as well. Right. And several other congressional members, as well as they are with LUCA. So.
Yeah, well, I like everything you're doing with LUCA and Hispanic 100. One of the greatest threats, or maybe the greatest threat to the Marxist underlying agendas and the liberal left woke apparatus is to tell us as Latinos and other minority groups that, hey, you can't do it without us. And I say, man, you know what? What are you talking about? We can do plenty without, you caging us in this DEI type of mentality. That's the most racist thing any group can ever do to a minority group that says they're for them, is that we have to lower the test scores. We have to make it equal. No, you don't. I can do this.
Yes.
To tell a group of people that are Hispanic or African American that we need to change the rules and lower the ceiling because we just don't think you can make it, that's racist.
Oh, it absolutely is. That is racism at its absolute worst.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, it is insulting. It's insulting when people say that we have to have ID to vote. I mean, that we shouldn't have ID to vote, rather, because we all should have an ID. And the fact that say, well, they're black, so they may not have an ID, or they're Mexican, so they may not have an ID. I'm sorry, but we have ID, and it is incredibly racist for people to think that we don't. And to say, well, we're going to lower standards at schools for you. We're going to lower this expectation at work for you, or whatever. We have some incredibly talented, Latino individuals. I'll tell you one thing.
For sure.
Out here, I've been very blessed because there's a group of Latina business owners that have jumped on my campaign and are just absolutely, absolutely incredible. And they have shown so much enthusiasm. But what I love about them so much is they're professionals, but they're also very attentive to their families, and the skill sets that they bring to the table, are a mixture of what they've learned at home from their upbringing, as well as what they've learned in the professional world. And I'll tell you what, you give me one Latina and you can take all the other people you want, because they are driven, and because their families have taught them so well in the upbringing as far as to our culture, and they have us as well, but they're not being as attacked like we are, as attacked as we are. As males, everybody's trying to, make you, emasculate you. They're trying to say, well, it's toxic masculinity, this and that. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. That's the way God made us. In fact, it's toxic when you try to feminize a male, because there's a role they have. But these women, they don't mess around, and they're unafraid. They're incredibly bold, and they know what is needed in the community, and they're not afraid to chase it. And they do that because they're trying to make a better world for their families, for their children, and for their and their lives. And their husbands are incredible men, and that you can really see what God's role is in the family working through them. There's no compromise there.
Yeah, for sure. And the enemy attacks the family because it's the replica of the Trinity.
Yes.
You have Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and in the family, that unit, you have the mother, the father, and the child that makes the family. It's a replica,
right?
An example, in the unity of the three in one. I put on the ticker here. I'm going to read this, and we'll talk about this for just a second. It says, some candidates, and this is a quote from you. I looked it off your Lynn had sent me, and I like it. Some candidates may have been advised to avoid these questions or speak around them, but I don't care.
I don't. I don't.
I believe it's important to be upfront with my intentions so people will know exactly where I stand, so there is no confusion in their minds when they decide if they want to vote for me. Hey, man, you're laying it out there.
Yep. And that's who I am, and I've been that way my whole life. And people say, "Man, you can't say that." And then I say it, they're like, "Well, there it is," And here's the thing: I want people to vote for me because they believe in me and what I stand for, not for what they want to hear.
Yeah.
And then me just go back later and make them upset. Because when people come talk to me, I want them to know this is who they're getting. If I tell you I'm going to do something, that's what I'm going to do. And, for instance, this like the abortion issue. I don't dance around that. People are like, man, you're a little extreme on. No, I'm not. I'm doing exactly what the Bible teaches me we're supposed to do. And so I'm not in any way controversial in that
Yeah.
area. Like the marijuana.
Let me pause you just for 1 second. I hate it when they say we're extreme for taking a stance to prevent a child from being extremely murdered in such a fashion. How come that's not extreme?
Well, and I'll tell you this, and if you go back through my Facebook, and I'll put that in there.
Yeah.
One of the most barbaric acts that anybody can do is to abort a baby. The methods that are used either through the pills that basically is like an acid to them when it gets to them, it's all intended to destroy this child. And I some of the things like with the partial birth abortion when they're drilling in or them going in with and clipping them, it is barbaric. It is incredibly barbaric. And then you're stripping these children of these babies of their life in a womb where they should be the most protected. Yeah. And I think one of the things that breaks my heart the most is that this is a person that God entrusted to care for that child. And now they are choosing to destroy that life in their womb. And I'll say this, a mother who aborts a baby is still a mother just of a dead baby that she killed.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, that's just what it is. And I don't waver from that. And I know not everybody's going to agree with me and I could lose votes and I don't care. Don't vote for me. That's how I feel. That's what I believe. Just like with law enforcement and everything else, I think people who are wanting to defund the police or who compromise in that safety, I think they're just incredibly foolish. And I tell them that. These are the people that are tasked to protect us. Why are we allowing people to disrespect them in our community when they're tasked to defend us? Yeah. And those same people that are disrespecting them, if they need something, they're going to call them. And
exactly.
I just feel so bad for our first responders and for our law enforcement because of the way they are being treated. And it's just easiest to make the cuts there. Okay, well, insurance got higher. Well, you don't get as much insurance, but that's okay. People don't realize that's a pay cut. Oh well, we're you're starting to make too much money. Too much money according to what? So we're going to cut that down so we don't have to cut spending anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but you're not going to sell me on that item. I think that police officers, we should have we have the highest crime rate per capita. One of the highest, in Texas for sure, one of the highest in the state. We should have some of the highest paid police officers. I bet you that starts, and first responders, that'll start dropping. We need to do the right things regardless. There's infrastructure issues. There was one that there was some neighborhood that was behind, and I know several of the people, and they're not going to like that I said it, but that infrastructure, building that student housing would have created a lot of jobs in Lubbock. We desperately need jobs. It would have created a lot of commerce for Lubbock, and we desperately need the commerce. It would have provided for growth for the university, and we desperately need that right now because we're getting to that point, and all we did was run off the people that were going to build it. And instead of having that strength behind us now, where we have that as a showcase for students, look what we're doing to bring more in. Now that's gone because the people that live behind it didn't want all the extra traffic. Well, guess what? When you have students and you put them right behind the university across the street, they're not going to drive in and out with their cars. Their cars are going to stay right there. They're going to walk across campus. There's not going to be a traffic issue. Yeah. And the fact that people thought that there would be is just, and then I think the other part was this wall, and they didn't like the noise canceling wall because they said it was ugly. Okay. 10,000 new students. Hundreds of millions of dollars. You can look at a wall. They could have changed the wall. Yeah. And there were several other locations that they were looking at doing stuff and they just didn't. And I think that it's wrong. And again, that's where I stand. At least people know when I walk into that door, and if I'm elected, the second I hit that gavel, this is how I'm going to pursue taking care of Lubbock. I think we need to improve our infrastructure. I think we really need to take a strong look at how money is being spent there, delve into that budget, and find out where some of the bureaucracy lies and pull that bureaucracy out of there. I bet you we find enough money to pay our police officers and our firefighters. I bet you that we find enough money to support the infrastructure that we're having and lower the cost of our utilities rather than watch it increase. I mean, there are a lot of things we can do to make Lubbock a better place because we have families that are barely able to afford gas to go to work or food on the table. And they're like, do I pay the rent this month, or do I buy food? Or do I put gas in the car so I can go to work?
Yeah, for sure.
Those are real problems.
Antonio, it sounds like you have a pretty good relationship with, law enforcement. You love it so much, and I'm sure you've developed relationships with people there in law enforcement. Have you heard that, any response from these officers and firemen? I'm just curious over there. I know what I hear here. When it comes to when a city tries to pass a bond, do any increases, they like to put the law enforcement and the fire department as a part of the 5th page, 6th page at the very bottom. And this includes maybe a 1% raise. And I think, do they feel that's a slap in the face? Because I think personally, if you're going to pass any bond for any increases, they should be on the first page.
Yes,
a bulk of the conversation. Would you?
And I'll tell you, and I've known several. In fact, one of my best friends is Sheriff Kelly Rowe, and was David Gutierrez before. And I've known several police officers and several detectives throughout the years and stuff. But my main relationship really was with the county, because I've worked with them more or less. But I'm also a citizen, and I see what's going on, and I see the crime rates increasing. So I've always been able to affiliate with what their needs are, and I've always been strong on law enforcement, just because I feel like, again, that's our first line of defense in anything we're doing. But I can tell you this: it's got to be a slap in the face. It would be to me, because here you are, you're telling us, go put your life on the line, and on page 6 or 7, we're going to see if we can take care of you with this little small amount of money that is not going to help anything. Absolutely anything that we put out that's going to involve me, that is going to be page 1, line item 1, and I'm willing to table whatever the heck else that we need to do until we get that done first. That's got to be one of the first things we fix. There's too much crime in the city right now. It's growing and growing and growing. It's violent crime. We have a drive-by shooting every day now in Lubbock. It's insane. And we've got kids can't play at the park. You can't play in your front yards anymore. You have families that really worry about kids getting scooped up. I mean, right now, human trafficking, child trafficking is a very real deal. We need to have the strongest police force, and our police force need to know that the city council has their back, and that the citizens of Lubbock do too. And so I'm asking the citizens of Lubbock, vote for me if you believe the same way I do about this, because I'm trying to protect your neighborhoods. And that's part of the reason I'm running. I want your neighborhoods to have the best first responders, because you never know when something's going to happen to one member of your family, and these people need to get out there. You want them to be the most trained, most professional people you can get. And if you keep losing the new people, eventually these other guys are going to retire their way out. And they're tolerating a lot as it is. So, you also got to look at the inner struggles that they're having to face because of the restrictions you're putting on their pay within their own family. So now you've got people that are trying to help you that are still even struggling more than you are, but they're putting their lives on the line. And they've got that on their mind. Why do you do that? Why not just take care of them the way you should, so they can take care of people with a clear mind, a clear, an understanding that they're loved and appreciated by the city.
I like that you're using that that verbiage, clear mind, because one thing that I've seen over the years, not so much in the police department, but in the fire department, they always have side gigs. They're building fences, they're doing landscaping, and is it because they just aren't getting enough pay? And if
it absolutely is,
if they're doing 2 and 3 different jobs, how clear are they going to be focused on the task of their main job? So I think that's a pretty good point, that you're using that verbiage of clear.
And think about it this way too, and one of the things I always think about, these police officers and a lot of these firemen, the firemen too, you never know what situation you're going to face when you walk into something. And those families know when that person leaves the house, they're putting their life on the line for the citizens of Lubbock. So, and they're putting their lives on the line for a community that they love and they enjoy being around. But we have a council that's not willing to pay them properly for those those services and the risks that they're taking. And to me, I feel like that's something that, I feel the same way, really. And I started learning about this with the power industry. those guys, when you go up on those poles, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and I've seen some stuff, you know, since I've been in it.
Yeah.
And you start thinking about it, there's a reason why journeyman linemen make more money. There's a reason why, you know, just different people are earning at what they're doing, because their lives are at risk the second they go up there, and they're willing to do that. So not everybody can do that, right? Not everybody can go out there and get up on a pole, climb a pole, or go up in a bucket and do these things and work with that level of electricity. And the same thing goes with like our firefighters. You know, not everybody understands the intricacies of different fires or different situations and understands the life-saving methods, because there are times where their lives aren't on the line, but somebody else's is. And they are the first responders. It's there for a reason. And the actions they take could mean life or death, and a lot of times do, for that individual that they're going to see. And they do this every day knowing that that's going to be on their mind. Now imagine this, you know, somebody dies in your arms and what that does to you as a person. And what it does to your psyche. And so what we're asking these people to do on a daily basis, and what they may or may, you know, they may face and generally do, it's not something that you or I could go do. It just isn't. And so we need to reward them accordingly. And it's not even a reward. It's just like, you know, it's pay them accordingly, what they've earned. And what they've earned is way more than what we're giving them right now. And we need to change that. It's shameful what we're doing to them right now.
I agree. Well, Antonio, I figured this is what would happen. We'd be at our hour in no time.
Okay.
And very good. I really like everything you're saying, and
appreciate it.
I would ask that the people would reach out to LUCA, find out what they're about.
Yes,
and it's a very good organization. You can find us, Conservatives of Texas.org as well. We love working with folks like LUCA. And, you know, the thing is, when you're running for anything or you're doing anything, I've always had a motto, Antonio: don't tell me what you want to do. Show me what you've been doing.
That's right.
And I can definitely get that sense from everything that you're involved in. So thank you for your time. And I want to give you the opportunity to close out. I'll put the last ticker there at the bottom so people can read that as well. Antonio, I appreciate your time.
Yes.
And let's go ahead and reach out to the folks there in Lubbock that are going to be voting this May as to why they need to decide on Antonio Renteria for mayor of Lubbock, Texas.
Thank you. What I bring to the table is something very unique, is that I have a connection with the people that I don't think anybody else really in this race does. I know what it's like to be incredibly poor. I grew up in minority areas. I know what it's like to go without power and without water, without food sometimes. And so fortunately, you know, we had families that lived near us that we could go utilize those utilities or those, resources with. But I do know this, is that I do connect with the people in this city, very, very much so. I am easily the most conservative person in this race, and I think everybody will tell you that. And what I say I'm going to do, I do. I'm a man of my word, and I'm going to give you my word that my first goal is to take care of we the people. And that's what I've always been about, and that's what I've always done for the last 41 years. I've done that. And I've helped other candidates get elected I felt could best serve Lubbock. And at this particular time, I believe I'm the best candidate for mayor. I would certainly appreciate your vote. Thank you. And thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you, Antonio.
Thank you.
And thankful for all you folks that are going to be watching this later on. Y'all have a great day, and all glory goes to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Amen. God bless.
Amen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.